when I started this, it was only just comedians. And I was like only talking to the people that like I knew, whether it was like Bill Burr or Wanda Sykes. And it was cool, like talking to them about some of their favorite artists. And then it's, it's kind of evolved, over the last, geez, like 5.5, 6 years, what you've been doing it, that I'm getting these like musicians that I like look up to, or that were like a huge part of my life. And to sit here and talk to you today, dude, Arrested Development, I still like one of like the summer that your music blew up and just came into my stratosphere. I mean, it was like such a rebirth of what hip hop and what music was at the time. And it's,
Thank you.
yeah, dude. I mean, you had to have been told that by so many different people because you were at the forefront.
I appreciate it very much, man. It never gets old. I am told by other people, but it never gets old. I always appreciate it.
My
Yeah.
pleasure. What are you up to right now? Promote away anything you want to promote, or just, what do you got? What are
Yeah,
you
I mean,
dealing with?
so a lot of things are happening. We have a new album that we released at the top of the year called Bullets in the Chamber. And it's part of a trilogy that we've done with a great producer out of Britain named Kafiga. And really back to some boom bap, just really good hip hop music.
Good.
It's reminiscent of the sonic style of the 90s, and it's just really, really great. Really proud of this record, as we are with the two that came before it. And we've been promoting that. We've been touring throughout the world. We've had some really, really great breakthroughs touring wise, sold out tour in all throughout Europe, and sold out tour with the Roots here in the United States, and Diggable Planets. So just some really, really great, you know, highlights in my career just happened this year. So yeah, really, really blessed as far as that's concerned.
That's awesome. So you just mentioned some of the groups that I would have kind of like lumped together with almost like socially conscious, like hip hop. So do you like Arrested Development, Tribe, Diggable Planets, The Roots? Like, do you guys all just are you guys all on just like a text chain together? And you guys are just like, what's up, Black Thought? Yo, let's see what's going on. Like,
I wouldn't go that far, but we definitely have been family throughout the years. In fact, like earlier or later in 2023, we did um, a really cool hip hop salute hosted by the Grammys, and it was on CBS, major network, mainstream time slot. And we actually were considered part of the native tongues, which anybody that knows hip hop from the
mhm.
90s knows native tongues is people like you just mentioned, Tribe, Queen Latifah, De La, so on and so forth, Black Sheep. And we were part of that, not that we're literally part of the native tongues, but we were part of that energy
Yeah.
and that section called the native tongue section, and which was dope. And in fact, in about a month, we're performing for the first time ever with us, Diggable Planets,
Oof.
and Far Side, the Far Side. All three of us performing 2 dates in LA, or in California, I should say. So it's like, just that family energy has been there since the 90s. Yeah.
Dude, I love that. And it's one of the things that from doing this podcast, which has been really cool, is that I got recommended to start voting on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I've been voting on it. Not to name drop, but Tom Morello, my buddy from Rage Against the Machine.
Come on.
I think he wanted to pad them getting in. And because I'm a comedian, but I do this music podcast. He
Yeah.
recommended me to vote. And so I've been voting in every year. And this year we finally got it where we got Tribe into the Rock and Roll
Oh,
Hall of Fame,
nice,
which
nice.
is like, but there's so many amazing, great artists that I feel like all of you guys kind of just contributed to what that movement is, and before we even start diving into Sly and the Family Stone, it's a reaction to what was before it. And, without the world the way that it is and what's going on in society, it was like, if it just would have kept going the same way, it would have been so boring to have somebody kind of shift and just kind of really, really like talk about, the socioeconomic problems and what the
Yeah.
way the government's treating people. It was such a great thing. And it's still, I mean, when you're talking about this new record now, like, do you still feel like, you have to bring up the hardships, or can you just make a song about just having fun and, you
Yeah.
know,
That's a great question. Both. I mean, I think that to be authentic and to be real, I'm gonna have to bring up some of the hardships and the realities that the people are facing, not just in the United States, but even across the world. You know, I was
yeah,
just in Colombia, South America, last week, and the hardships they're facing there. I was in Africa earlier this year, and the hardships they're facing there. So just being authentic, I'm gonna rap about that. But at the same time, you know, I'm in this for music at the end of the day. I'm a musician, I'm an artist, and having a song that just feels good and just rocks a crowd is also like if it was a pie chart, to me it's 50%. I need 50% of that to be that too. You know what I mean? As
yeah, yeah,
opposed to
yeah, yeah,
just 90% all like heavy issues, you know.
yeah. You know, this record came after There's a Riot Going On, and this record wouldn't be on the list if it wasn't bumping. But that
Right.
also means that it wouldn't be on this list, it wouldn't exist on the list for if it didn't have this cultural relevance, but also has a groove. And you guys, like I said, came up at a time. And I kind of
Yeah.
want to find that you came up at a time when it was hip hop was basically still pretty new, but it was a direction that was
Yeah.
going on. What did you see? Because I know what Sly saw when he started doing some of his shit. We'll get into that, but what did you guys see that was lacking at the time when you started making the first record and you started getting Arrested Development together?
Yeah. What I really saw that was lacking was a sense of social consciousness, but in the mainstream. So you
Yeah,
had artists with social consciousness. KRS One, super conscious, super effective, but not necessarily in the mainstream. You had X Clan, very effective, very conscious, not necessarily in the mainstream. So that, and then also the spiritual edge to it. So political consciousness can sometimes evoke like the Black Panthers, and then it stops there.
yeah,
Arrested Development felt that there was a missing slot of that social consciousness of like the Black Panthers or even the civil rights movement, but mixed with a spirituality of the Black church, for instance, or even African spirituality. So, like, those two things married together is what I think made Arrested Development unique and why I felt like we needed to fill a hole.
yeah, dude. Um, So when you're getting together that first record, is Sly and the Family Stone like a huge is that what you're listening to? Like what is in the atmosphere around you guys? Is Sly in there? It had to have been because my next question is like when did you really start getting into Sly and
That's
how big a part was it?
That's a great question. So, ironically for me, I was not familiar with Sly until I started what we call in hip hop digging in the crates, which is
Yeah.
searching for samples, searching for drum sounds, and the JBs and Dr. Dre had a drum beat. Dr. Dre had it on 187 on the undercover cop, yeah, and you don't stop. Him and Snoop, and he had this drum beat, and I was like, "Yo, that drum break is crazy." And then the Jungle Brothers had that same drum loop on a song called "The JBs," and I'm like, "Yo, that drum loop is so dope." And I found out it was from a group called Sly and the Family Stone, and I started digging into the crates, listening to their music, and literally, I was blown away by what this group was bringing to the table. And I became a super fan at that point and from
Yeah.
that point forward. And anyone that knows Arrested Development's catalog knows that numerous songs that we put out are influenced directly from Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh my god. It's like I was like, looking over just some of it. And this is like I don't know if I wanted to ask this later or earlier, but I'll just get to it now because you're bringing it up. Is like, when you go about because you've used Sly and then you've also used like Bob Marley type references as well. It's
Yeah.
like, did you ever get to talk to them or talk to Sly, or is it all just going through through lawyers, like, because you're paying
Yeah.
homage and you're giving them props? Were you approached like as almost just like, oh, well, it's fine, you're just doing it as a tribute? Like, how did that all work out? And like, was it hard, difficult? Like, you tell me.
Yeah, so I never met Sly.
Oh,
And in hip hop, like so we didn't sample Sly on our hit song People Every Day, which is a flip of Everyday People, right?
yeah.
We didn't sample Sly, but we what they call interpolated Sly. So when we interpolated his chorus and sang it, re-sang it, and stuff like that, we had to give songwriting credits and publishing to Sly. But Sly didn't own his own publishing. Michael Jackson actually owned Sly's publishing. So I met Michael Jackson and actually went through him to get the rights for I Am Everyday People.
No way,
So
dude.
never had to talk to Sly to get those rights. Later on, after our song had blew up, and to some extent or another, is definitely a runner up or equally dope song as their original, which is amazing.
Yeah.
um, our song started to get a lot of love worldwide, and the group, not Sly himself, but Family Stone, reached out to me, and just we showed equal love and respect to one another, and wanted to tour or do something, because at that time they weren't touring a lot, and they wanted to either work with us or go on the road with us or just collaborate in some way. So yeah, I had a chance to meet them a little later on, and it's always been such a pleasure. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
they still put on an amazing, funky show that's just as great as they ever were. So I mean, they're still doing it like nobody's business. And Sly comes out as well at certain points and does parts of their show. So yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was done touring completely. I just because I mean, I was like watching a bunch of different documentaries, and like the history. It's just whether it was through like drug use, and then
yeah,
he had a period of homelessness, and and it's like to hear that Michael Jackson bought his masters was the licensing, or what you had said,
yeah,
which is like just you ever seen that video of Michael Jackson like in that one like antique shop, and he's like, I'll take that, I'll take
yeah,
three of them, I mean,
yeah.
I
I
can just
could
see
see
him
that.
just looking through somebody's
Yeah,
CD booklet, like, I'm
yeah,
gonna buy that, let me
yeah,
do all of Bob Dylan, and let me take
yeah,
this Barry White
yeah, yeah,
record.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Which I get, and I know that's a smart business thing. It's just it really just bums me out because when you talk about the history of funk and hip hop and even rock and roll, fuck, Miles Davis,
yeah,
Sly and the Family Stone is somebody that's constantly mentioned. And
without a
dude,
question.
this isn't speech. I'm sure my mic's about to fall off. This isn't the last time we're talking about him. Like I think we have 4 more records that we're doing of his. We have, so
Yeah,
this one
yeah.
fresh, then like, Adam, where is it? Because I know you wrote this out. Like, how many more do we have? Here it is. I got it right here. So we have 69s. We have this one, Stan. And we have Fresh. Then we have Stand. Then there's a riot going on. Then we have the greatest hits, which is funny because the greatest hits, which came out like 2 albums before this one we're about to talk about. My mom was not a hip woman whatsoever as far as music at all. She had a Mamas and the Papas record, she had Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band record, and she had Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hit.
Wow.
Those are the 3. And I mean, I've always been a music fan. My dad was a guy that got me into jazz. So I listened to Miles, and I'd listen to,
Yeah,
Oscar Peterson and
yeah,
Joe Pass and all that different shit. But it was listening to that greatest hits. And if I'm not mistaken, it opens with not Dance to the Music. It opens with bow now now, bow now now. I can't think of the title of it. You know this. Come on.
yeah.
Hey,
Totally, I
hey,
know it. Not
music's getting strong. I want to take you higher. Jeez
right. I
Louise.
wanna take you
So I think my
high.
brain is just fried from waking
Mine
up this
too.
morning and
Mine
seeing
too.
the whole government switch and just being like,
Exactly. Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ, man.
same here.
Which is so apropos that we're doing this record,
Yeah,
and I'm sitting here talking to you about that.
yeah,
It's just, it's just such a crazy thing. And I think like when you're talking about a riot going on, that was in a sense their like very political record.
yeah.
And this is still this like super funky thing. So when did you talked about you got obsessed with Sly and the Family Stone later in your career? Like where did you start and how did you find this record in particular?
Yeah, for me, I had the benefit of becoming a fan when it's almost like binge watching on television. Like if you find a series a little after it came out, you don't have to wait every week to watch every episode. It
Mhm.
was like that with Sly. I was able to dig deep into all of his albums at one time. So like just literally scouring over them, and the benefit of not having to think about how it was being received by pop culture at the time. So I didn't have to think about, oh well, this one didn't do as well as that one, so therefore this one must be better. I didn't have none of those sort of contexts to deal with. I just was able to listen to the music for what it was. So Riot Going On, Fresh, all Stand, all of these records, I was just digging into at the same time. So yeah, for me it was just all this vibrant, colorful, um, diversity oriented, spiritual music.
So what were you listening to? What was in your house growing up? This wasn't being played,
No,
really?
no, not really. So I have an amazing family background. So my mom was into music, but she played church organ, so she was into gospel music.
Yeah.
My dad was a nightclub owner. So growing up at age 13, I got introduced to music a lot from what his DJs were playing at the nightclub. It was a very popular nightclub in my home state of Wisconsin. And so um so it was great because I was introduced to a lot of great music during that time period. But that was after Sly. So this stuff, I was born in 68. And so a lot of the stuff that I was being introduced to was, late 70s and stuff like that. So anyway, I guess the real point is that they weren't playing it at the house, but like I said, me digging in the crates and being a huge lover of the art of hip hop, I just started finding out that music on my own. Same with the Blue Note catalogs and all of that. So for me as just a lover of hip hop, I became a lover of all of this music as well.
I mean, how could you not? It's like, which
Yeah.
is crazy because I got, like I said, I heard the greatest hits, which has like what I would say are like the biggest songs, the ones that are going to be played at like a wedding, dance to the music,
Yep.
uh, I want to take you higher. Uh, I just listened to There's a Riot Going On. This record, let's start with the word fresh. And
Mhm.
because it really has, such a meaning to it that I want to throw back to you, where it's just like when people think of fresh, they think of new. And when Arrested Development, when AD, just like in comedy, like there's this award that they give called New Faces at this huge festival just for laughs, which is they pick 19 comics and they're like, these are the next big things. Nobody really
Right.
wins it. They're just like, these are the new guys.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just like, you and I like, and I want you, if you can expound on it, you guys are like thrust into the spotlight
Yeah. Very
winning
true.
best new artist with these legacy artists. There's a lot of eyes on you. And and you're also not just, winning best new artist, you're the first rap artist, if I'm not mistaken, to win best new artist. You
And
know,
and the last rap group to win Best New Artist.
is that true?
I think so. I think there still has not been a rap group since us. You could check
So,
and make sure, but I think
well,
so.
Adam, will you check that
Yeah.
out? Because me and so I
Yeah.
was me and the guy that I go over everything prior to this, we were talking about
Totally.
like what that one must have been like. So this is such like a multiple part question. Like when first like where were you when you got that news that and like what was that like to suddenly get nominated, not just win, but just get nominated. And you also have like Rolling Stone call you the band of the year. I mean, this
Yeah.
is the pressure that must have been on you,
True.
or just it's like, what is the weight of that feel like? What was
Uh,
where were you at? Everything. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was absolutely mind blowing for a lot of reasons. One is I'm from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee had never had a hip hop success story, period. So unlike guys that came from New York who already had a whole generation of great artists that came before them during the 90s. So like Tribe already had DJ Red Alert that was willing to, sort of stamp approve them, or Marley Marl, LL Cool J, so many more than I can mention that came before them. In Milwaukee, there was no such thing. So for us, and for me, and other members came from Milwaukee too, it was just mind blowing to be from Milwaukee, having no history of having hip hop success, being that big. Where Rolling Stone, Rock and
Yeah.
Roll Hall of Fame named us 500, one of the 500 top songs of all time. My song Tennessee that I wrote. So like that alone was just mind blowing. Then you're only 22. So like at age 22, you're thrust out there as like band of the year. You
Yeah.
know, it's tough, and it's your first album too. So I was talking with Michael Stipe from REM back in these days, and he was like, "Man, I don't envy you," because he was like, they had a hit album at the time we were talking called Monster, and
Hmm.
that record, they had already had a number of records prior to that
Yeah.
to sort of find themselves. But for us and for me, it was our first album. It was our debut. So yeah, we knew ourselves pretty well because we had our whole life to make that first record, but we didn't know ourselves as a a, a a star sort of, or the stardom type of thing, and fame and money and accolades. All of that was 100% new to us, and so was the music industry in general new to us. So yeah, it was mind blowing, bro. It was definitely trippy. But as far as the term fresh, that's the accolade that was always put on us too, and I appreciate that because I like to think that we brought and bring something fresh to the table, and something, to me, I look at fresh, and I think about water, and I think about water that, like, who wants to drink water that you can see dirt floating in it? But
Hmm.
then you filter out that water and you get this fresh, pristine, clean glass of water, and that's what you want to drink. To me, that's what fresh means. And that's what I felt about this album from Sly, that is, and
Hmm.
what I felt we brought to the table back in 92.
Oh, I couldn't imagine what that's like. I mean, to be, you know, to be not only winning this, but like I said, Adam found that Chance the Rapper in 2017 was the next one, and the only other one besides you that won Best New Artist.
Yeah,
And hip hop is like, it's this reaction to, like, what's going on in the world. It's still very new. You're probably what, it's, when hip hop starts, it's definitely like influenced by disco, and then it starts moving into
yeah,
the Run DMC,
yeah,
and then you have NWA, and so then you're getting, Arrested Development. you
yeah.
know was there pressure on you to be accepted by all of everything in hip hop, or was it like, how did that feel? Because there's a shift, man, where you guys become this quasi hippie movement, and to call it that, and then
Yeah,
from the gangster rap, I mean, it must have.
yeah, yeah. It was a lot of pressure for all the reasons you just mentioned. You mentioned the history, so here we are. We're coming with something new. It's it's a maybe a detour or a off ramp from what
Mhm.
Tribe did, Jungle Brothers did,
Yeah.
Black Sheep, um, even to some extent or another politically Public Enemy. Um, but we're still an offshoot. We're not literally right in that vein, like right locked into that vein. And we're doing, and this links back to Sly and the Family Stone. We're doing some things that have not been done
At
in hip
all.
hop.
Mm-mm.
So while we're doing music that's fresh and the pressure is on, we also brought men and women in the same hip hop group, which had only been done once before in hip hop, which was Funky 4 plus 1. Then you got Heavyset skinny, all of this type stuff, which in hip hop, believe it or not, had also not been done. Just these diverse body types in this whole
Hmm.
body image.
Sure.
But then you got a group from the South, which also has not been done at the time, that's blowing up that big. Um, then we got an elder in the group who at the time was in his late 50s, almost 60 years old in hip hop, which was unheard of. So like plus melodic style rhyming, which also was not done. So in hip hop, there always was routines that every once in a while someone might go into a melodic routine,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
b-boys rocking, everybody's rating. So that was like melodic routines, but then they go out of that and go back to rapping. Whereas what I did as an MC was more reminiscent of what's popular now, which is like a Drake or um, even earlier, not earlier than us, but earlier than Drake, like Thugs, Bone and Harmony, or
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff,
Sure.
Nelly, stuff like that. So, it was just so much freshness that we were bringing to the table, and it
So
reminds me of
much.
Sly.
So much. I mean, it's like I'm everything you just went over. I forgot there was that dude in the group who everybody thought he was Mr. Wendell, right? Like, isn't
Exactly.
that the
Yeah.
whole thing? The
Yeah.
dancing guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Baba
wait,
OJ. Yeah.
sorry, who was that dude? Yeah,
So
like,
his name is Baba OJ, and rest in peace. The brother's transitioned now,
oh,
but um, he was the elder in the group, and for me, I wanted us to have an elder in the group because I had taken a trip down to Jamaica, and America sort of takes pride in this generation gap idea where the youth don't really rock with whatever the older folks are doing, and the older folks don't usually like what the youth are doing. But when I got to Jamaica, it wasn't like that at all. They were intertwined. So they were rocking reggae music and roots music to artists that were 20 years, 30 years older than they were, the fans. So I was like, wow, that's what I wanted to promote in our group. So I started looking around for an older guy to be in a hip hop crew. I just thought it would be a dope concept. And it turned out to be very inspirational for
oh,
millions
I
of
love,
people.
dude, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that because, I think I love what I even love even more is just like how it works with like Sly and the Family Stone, they had no racial barriers. They had men, they had women,
Exactly.
they had an
Yep.
Italian saxophonist.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
they were just, which is one, it's fucking so ahead of its time coming out of the
Exactly.
60s and the 70s where, you have, Dr. King just got murdered, JFK got
Exactly.
killed. There's,
Malcolm
Brown
X
versus,
was murdered. Segregation was just taken off the table. I mean, Jim Crow South, like all of these things. And here's a group that defies all of that. Shout
yeah,
out to Oakland too, which was always a revolutionary location. Just from the Black Panthers to Sly the Family Stone to, shout out to San Francisco, Oakland area, the Bay Area. So yeah,
love that area. I hate that Oakland A's moved to Vegas. I hate that teams are going to Vegas. Why
yeah,
Vegas? Oakland has character, man.
I'm
You
with
know what
you.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Oakland has so
no
much
doubt.
character. I also keep forgetting that you were from Wisconsin because I would always assume, Arrested Development kind of.
Tennessee.
Yeah, well, it was not just Tennessee, but I thought, because didn't you guys form in Atlanta too?
Yeah, we
Like,
did. We started in
yeah,
Atlanta. Yeah,
yeah. So
we did.
that's the thing is that, especially with, because you're, you're wearing such like the Afrocentric clothing. It's
Yeah.
this is which also you guys were some of the first people to fucking do that too, which was so dope. And you're you're coming out 3 years prior to Outcast, to
Yep.
Goody Mob, and
Fugees.
they had to have looked up to you guys. Was there a sense of pride when you started seeing the others blow up?
Yeah, there was and there is. I mean, a lot of them I either used to bring to Atlanta to perform. So like Outkast, I believe I was one of the first to have not Outkast, but the Fugees come to Atlanta. I think
Oh,
I was literally the promoter that brought them to Atlanta for the first time. We did 2 sold out shows with them. They gave us total props, like salute, salute. Outkast gave us total props, salute, salute. Same difference with Black Eyed Peas and, of course, Talib Kweli,
mhm.
Most Def, Erica Badu, like so many people that just as we were an offshoot of native tongues, they were an offshoot of what Arrested Development would do. So, it was, yeah, it's a lot of love, a lot of salute, salute, saluting
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, how did you feel when Outcast wins, was it and he and what's his face gets up on stage and he's like,
Source, I think it was the Source Awards that
this so
night.
yeah, which is like,
Album of the year.
how many and he's like, dude, we got some shit coming out of the South, man, and you guys
We
need
got
to
something to say.
recognize that. Like, you must have felt incredible. I mean, because hip hop, especially when you guys win, it's big, but it's only you must have been able to see it. Just like, did you ever think that it was going to get as big as it did, or would you just like, we'll always just kind of be our subsect?
Yeah, what we hoped that it would become as big as it is,
Yeah.
but no, we had no idea that it necessarily would. We were always on the side of fighting for it. Like, to me, the way we used to be, and not just Arrested Development, I'm talking about our generation of hip hop artists. We were sort of like evangelists, you know, just really preaching hip hop. Like we're telling
Hmm.
people, believe in this, get into this, get baptized by this. This is dope. And we were convincing the world. Like I remember when we first went on tour overseas, none of our peers in hip hop had even been over there yet, other than Public Enemy. So like we were one of the groups that was literally paving the way for what hip hop fans would become in these various countries and nations throughout the world. So yeah, it's a tripped out thing just being in that position to help the music grow to what it is. And as far as Andre 3000 and Big Boy accepting that award and Andre saying the South's got something to say, for me hearing that, it was it was inspirational and simultaneously it was frustrating because we had already came 3 years before,
Yeah, yeah,
sold
yeah.
sold 4 million albums and won 2 Grammys, 2 MTV awards,
Whoa.
NAACP award. My point is that we made a big impact and surely had something to say. And
Sure.
and I'm not dissing Andre, I'm saying how at the time, how resistant New York was. Because if you remember, the Outcast got booed that night.
Oh yeah.
And so at that time, at least, New York was very resistant to allowing the South to really get a foothold. And of course, after Outkast, the South not only got a foothold, it took over the entire mantle of hip hop. And it's still that way right now, to be quite honest. If
Oh
people are
yeah.
honest, the South really dictates where hip hop is right now.
Oh, 100%. So I want to there's a few songs that I feel like we kind of have to talk about when it comes to this record. I'm going to kind of do them sort of out of order because I feel like when we're talking about fresh, I think a good segue would be and talking about what we just talked about with Arrested Development winning Best New Artist. Let Me Have It All. And this, it's the song when you think of like when you let me say this how when you make it there has to be a moment when you finally make it when you guys have worked so hard and you start winning all these awards. You have Rolling Stone say you guys are the best group. So you went from like struggling just to break through the door and then suddenly it being wide open. um you might have already kind of answered this, but it was like, what was that? What was it like to suddenly be rewarded? You went from being relatively obscure to being overnight, not overnight, but through hard work, selling. You said 4 million.
Yeah,
I saw 6 million records that you had, MTV. You're representing
yeah,
the art form.
yeah,
What was it like to being given it all, and how do you still though remain aware? And I hate the word,
yeah.
to say woke,
No, I
but
know
it's like,
exactly
but
what
to
you're
be,
saying. Yeah.
you know what
Woke
I'm
is all
saying? To
right.
be
I
a
like woke.
yeah, but to be like to still keep your foot in that because dude, Tennessee, Mr. Wendell, like those are
Yeah.
really conscious songs about homeless problems, about
Yeah.
what it's like
Yeah.
growing up in the South, and like
Yeah.
so like how do you do that?
Dude, that was a trippy and hard thing to pull off, right? Because you're right. You're all of a sudden the red carpet is sort of rolled out for you, literally and figuratively, and then
Yeah,
it's all new. And even more importantly, you're a conscious group. So like we're talking about I'm everyday people. We're not talking about, yo, we're dripped in gold and like, we got the
yeah,
bling and the shiny. So it is a trippy thing to sort of try to keep your head. in order. And for me, as the leader of the group and the producer of the group, I had to a lot of times sort of turn my gaze away from all the fame and accolades and just remember why we're doing it, which was for the people. Like we wanted to, and still do want to make music to encourage, uplift, educate, inspire the people. You know what I'm saying? And change the realities, the bad realities that the people face. So um just keeping our heads in that frame of mind was the
Mhm.
key, man. And I'll never forget leaving the MTV Awards. And at that time, we're at the top of our game
Yeah.
as far as accolades are concerned. And I'm leaving there, and I remember saying, "Is this it?" Like everything I dreamed about for years prior to getting there. And I was like, "Wow, this is it." And I was a little disappointed, and I started singing this on the way out of the MTV, the venue for the MTV Awards. I started singing "Redemption Song" by Bob Marley,
Yeah.
and just to myself. And my girlfriend was there, and some of the group members were there, and we all were just in this place, like, "Wow, is this it?" So I say all of that to say it was trying to keep our heads straight, and not letting all of this sort of hype and stuff, like
Yeah.
having it all get to us.
Yeah. What was the moment? What was the moment that you knew you went from not struggling artist, but you're like, holy
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah,
this
this is
is
it.
really this it's getting to people. Like, wow. Because you mentioned REM, and
Yeah.
I had Mike Mills from REM on, and he was saying that the reason the moment he knew how global, not global, just how big REM had gotten was like being in some, like he was in some country doing this work, basically helping like fresh water, something along the lines of that. And on this radio in the middle of nowhere, like an REM song starts playing. Like
Wow.
when did you realize like this is getting big?
Yeah. For me personally, we were on tour in a van throughout the South, Southeast, and we were in North Carolina. And I forget if we were in Charlotte or I forget. And we pull up near the venue, and we start to see this line of people about a block long. And then we turn, we make a right, and we see more lines of people. And we make another right and more line of people. And then
Wow.
they're all going into the venue. And so I asked the woman that was driving, who was also our tour manager, her name was Lisa. I said, "Lisa, who else is performing tonight? Because we've been performing before that night, and we didn't have those kind of crowds." And so she said, "It's just you guys." And that was the very moment. That was back in 1992. And I was like, we've made it. Like, there's 3 blocks of people to get into our show, and we're the only ones performing. That was it. I
Oh
knew,
my
I knew it was changed from that point on.
oh my god, that's such a cool like feeling. What was the first thing that you bought once you got the big check? Was there anything like you were just like, all right, like anything like a car? Like, because I've talked to people there, it's like, I just got my teeth fixed. Like
Exactly.
sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you're in that position where it's like, I just want to do some basic shit. But
Right. Exactly.
what was it? Did you buy anything that you were like, all
Yeah.
right, this one's what'd you get?
Well, for me, it wasn't any big ticket item. It was I went out to breakfast every morning. Like so
Wow.
before that I was broke. So I
Yeah,
couldn't afford to go out to eat breakfast every morning or even once a week. So once and this was before the record really blew up. It was at once because I'm a producer of the group too. So I would get a publishing check
sure.
in advance. And with that advance, which was only $10,000, but at the time in my
It's a
life,
lot.
that was like the most money I'd ever seen in my life. And so I remember there was this restaurant that was popular back in these days called La Peep, and it was a breakfast place. And it probably cost about $7 to eat there every morning. But I started doing that every single morning. I would leave my apartment and I'd go over to La Peep and I would eat breakfast. And that to me was such a baller move. And I was like,
It
I
is.
truly made it. I
Dude, I
truly made
that's
it.
that's
Yeah.
crazy that you say that because I want the one meal unless I'm out on the road, which I'm on the road most weekends, and so
Yeah.
then it was like, but I used to. It's only been recently that I've been out on the road and I would go out and get breakfast. And in New York, where I live, I never, because I feel like breakfast is the easiest meal to make. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. So let
Some
me make it
eggs,
at home.
half a bagel, and some blueberries. I eat the same
Yeah.
shit every day. But dude, it's like
Yeah.
that is if you can, if because I understand
Yeah.
going out and buying lunch. I understand
Yeah.
going out and buying dinner.
Right.
But
Yeah.
breakfast, that changes everything. That's some baller shit right there, dude.
It is. It's baller, man. It's like, and it was dope. Like to me, I was like, wow, I've truly made it. Like I'm living the good life, as Kanye
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. All right, let's talk about Frisky because this one's pretty interesting to have this on the record. And by the way, it's like I thought this quote was pretty funny when Sly was talking about this track. He said, Frisky was a picture of my room, the way I kept instruments all around the bed, a guitar, a keyboard, something to blow. And then he has to paraphrase. He goes, I mean, an alto sax, not cocaine, which is just so funny. That was Sly. He has to
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so Frisky is baby making music. This
Yeah.
is this is this is a sexy song, and I assume, you know, thinking about this, like, with there's a riot going on. Is a big record coming up. It's something that when he does that, it's I wanted to compare this to like Prince, where Prince has
I was gonna
Sign of
say
the
that.
Times, his
Yeah.
Sign of the Times, and he wrote about like gangs, crack, but then he also had Camille and
Yep.
this other sex stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
he figured out a way to meld together ways to make a statement but still be Prince.
Yep.
And for Arrested Development, what did it feel like? Did you feel? I mean, we keep talking about pressure, but did you feel pressure to only talk about the problems in the world? Could you one because you're what 22 years old when you made it,
Yep.
right? I mean, you're a
22. Yeah.
kid, yeah, dude. It's like what are we obsessed with? It's like women
Yep.
partying,
Yep.
sex.
Yep.
It's like how do you still? So was there the pressure to only write songs a certain way, or could you know? Write
Yeah.
about like still being a
Yeah.
22-year-old.
Yeah, not at all. For me, now I will say, in all fairness, I have an old soul. So when I was 22, I was probably 42. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I did have an old soul mentality for quite a long time. So I will say that. But having said that, I didn't feel pressured for every song to feel like a political slogan. I did, like, even on our first album, there were songs like Natural, which is talking about, this beautiful woman with all these natural features and her beautiful
yeah.
big lips and her nose and her face and her natural hair and how beautiful she was and how I want to sleep with her and I just want to stay inside of her all night long. Right. So I'm
Mhm.
talking like sensual, frisky, things on that song. And then Dawn of the Dreads is really a love affair song that was on our first album too. So I allowed that stuff to be sort of a blueprint for all of our records that would come after, that we're going to still talk about relationships and love and stuff like that. But I will say it didn't come off as sort of experimental and sort of like, college student with open eyes with sex for the first time vibe. It didn't come off like that. It did come off with a more mature energy to it because I was already an old soul at heart.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, completely, completely. But
Yeah.
it's like, can you still be, was it hard to be a 22-year-old? Like
Yeah.
with, it's just with there was so much going on in the world, the culture. It's like,
Yeah.
to be 22 with all of that success. How did you
Yeah.
keep yourself grounded? Was it through just like, writing these other songs and just saying, all right, because you say you have this old soul, but it's like, I don't give a shit if you're, dude, I'm 44 and I'm still 22. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
make
yeah,
we're not changing.
yeah. No, you're right. In fact, it was it was more tough in real life than it was for me writing wise because I mean, you know how it is. Like when you're on tour, you have
Yeah, oh yeah.
access. And when you're
Oh yeah.
famous, you have access and you have access to women all the time. So like I think that part was really tough for me because the lyrics that I wrote was before I was famous and it's talking about an aesthetic in a way I want to live my life. But then now I'm really immersed in this lifestyle that's which is totally new for me. And there's totally women having access. I totally love these women. I'm
Yeah.
totally going for it. And there's interaction every single night. And there was that. I don't know, maybe cognitive dissonance of like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to be doing and what am I actually doing out here? You know what I'm saying? I think that that happened a lot. And I had speaking of Miles Davis, I had the bass player from Miles Davis on tour with us. His name is Foley,
Yeah.
amazing, talented bass player, multi instrumentalist actually. Um, he was on tour with us and he was laughing all the time because he was like, you have a dilemma where your music speaks like you're not about to go down like, getting with these women in every city. You have that dilemma of having that image, but yet here you are and you are wanting to get down with these various women. And it was true. It was sort of a screechy, you know, sort of nails down the chalkboard
Yeah.
feel. Like what is this? What are we supposed to be doing? It was tough. It was a tough thing to ride. Yeah.
But we figure it out. We
We
figure it
figured it
out.
out.
We
Yeah.
figure it out because that's going to bring me to the
Facts.
next song. Whatever will be, will be. Que
Yeah.
sera, sera, which is this is what's funny about this song is that I think this song got into my life way before I definitely listened to this record. I wouldn't say it's like I said, I already heard Sly and the Family Stone from the greatest hits when I was younger, but this song I was so attracted to at a young age. And I think that's like my dad, having really been into like the Great American Songbook and the
Yeah.
Cole Porter and the Duke Ellington and all the Sinatra.
Yeah.
And what a I don't want to say like ballsy thing to do, but it's just this is a this is a Doris Day
Yeah.
Academy Award winning song,
Yeah.
sung here by Rose Stone. This is like, it's so odd for out of all the covers that Sly is going to choose, this is the one that he chooses.
Yeah.
He says he did this as a gift. He says Quesera was a gift to Doris Day, Terry Melcher's mother. Terry played a original version for me one day, and right away I could hear how it would sound. And that's another thing too. He completely changes it into this, what would you call it? Like I don't want to say it's like gospel. It's got a gospel feeling to it for
Totally
sure.
gospel. I
Yeah,
agree. He has that going on with a lot of his music. Yeah. I
yeah,
agree.
and so what I wanted to like think about, which is like this is with kind of what's going on in the world. I had mentioned earlier that like rock and roll, from Reagan had this wave of energy with Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. Like, is the direction of this country that we have right now, is Trump going to be to hip hop what Reagan was to rock and roll? And like, what do you think the reaction of hip hop is going to be? And not just hip hop, you can say music in general, but specifically hip hop, if
Yeah,
for
no, I think that's a great question. And obviously it remains to be seen, but if he does even a fraction of the things that he ran on and said he's going to do, I definitely think that it is going to wake up hip hop. And it's going to be like waking a sleeping bear because hip hop is still so influential and not just in America, but across the planet.
yeah,
And to be honest, hip hop has been sleeping, especially the mainstream hip hop. Um, so I think that once he starts taking away a lot of the things that people have become accustomed to enjoying, and that's just based on what he promises he's going to do. If he starts doing that, I think it's going to wake up hip hop, and I think it's going to um, embolden a lot of artists to start speaking up. And I remember when he was president before, and that started to happen. You seen like artists like Lil Baby doing a political song,
yeah,
or no, not Lil Baby. Who was it? Gosh, I forget the brother's name. Baby was in his name, but I forget.
uh
Anyway,
yeah,
um, but he did a political song, and it was actually super dope because at that time, police were killing us, black people, and they were not being held to account, and we are scared for our lives in a sense. And um, so there's these realities that I think could very much embolden hip hop to get back into some really, really serious messaging and inspiring people to get engaged more. So
who do
that's
you who do
dope.
you who do you think is kind of like passing, like taking the torch from those groups that we spoke about earlier that you came with, with Tribe, with you, with the Roots,
Yeah.
like are there any hip hop artists that, because it's like the shift, you know, even with Sly, man, the shift of like people that are making statements or doing something, it kind of like it just kind of almost implodes on itself, and then it just becomes a very self-centered, like, we're just making the money, we're gonna talk
Right.
about, especially in hip-hop, where it's like, all the hip-hop that I grew up loving. And not saying, listen, I love, don't get me wrong, I love, there's Drake shit I love. There's fucking,
Exactly.
gangster rap. Doesn't make a difference. Like, I love
Right.
everything,
Yeah. Me
from
too.
Public Enemy to fucking to Ice T to whatever.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's like, it definitely feels like over the last few years, it's just become, about, in the TikTok generation, about flashiness
Yeah.
and not really saying shit like we were, like you guys were. Like, who do you feel is like taking the torch and kind of running with it?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's running with it like we were, and not
Yeah.
to say it just Arrested Development, but even like Public Enemy was, or like so. And what I mean by that is anyone mainstream. So there's some people underground, like man, Cyrock is incredibly political. Immortal Technique is very political. Um, and there's others, but I do think some are touching on it. And as we were just talking about what maybe Trump's going to do with his next run as president, it's probably going to embolden some of those people that are touching on it, like a J. Cole or even a Kendrick Lamar, maybe a Doechii.
Yeah.
These artists may start getting a little bit more in your face because of they're reacting to what's gonna happen with this Trump season that we're in.
This is crazy. I can't believe that this is
Me
happening
either,
again.
man. It's too fresh, dude. It's like
I mean, it
it's
is fresh. It's funny, is that
yeah,
because my booker Emily, who I love, like, when she had set this up, and I was like, sure. But the other person that I have coming up too is Kathy Griffin. I'm doing
yeah,
Madonna with her. I don't know if you remember.
yeah.
She
Oh
was
yeah,
like, she did the thing where she held up the picture of like his head, and
totally.
it's like,
Yeah,
and she was like, "Do you want to do it? You want to do it the day after?" I was like, "Nah, let's
right. Exactly. Yeah,
let's wait a second. Let's
yeah.
just wait a second." It's I don't know, man.
I don't either, bro. I'm speechless about this reality. Like especially today, it's so fresh that
it's
I'm sort of
so
speechless.
I woke up I went to bed. I went to go see David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. He was at Madison Square Garden last night. And it was
Nice.
this beautiful thing. And I took mushrooms, and I'm just like, this is great. And then I
Right.
went home, and I stayed off my phone. And then when like I woke up, and that was the first thing that I saw.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I
Yeah,
don't know.
man.
Look, I know this, and this is, and I hate to say this, I'm a straight white man.
Yeah.
I don't have kids. Like, I'm fine
Yeah.
in the big
Yeah.
picture. But it's
Yeah.
like, I empathize for so many friends and women and people of color,
Yeah.
that it's like,
Yeah.
and nothing feels guaranteed,
Yep.
and it
It's
just
not.
really, and the speech, the sad thing is that if the main reason why he's being elected is for the economy, and that's all that fucking matters, like, that's just, it just sucks, man. It sucks that it's like, eggs went up an extra dollar, and you want to
Yeah.
bring somebody in that could
Yeah.
just change, you know, abortion and this, that, and the other thing. It's just scary. I don't know.
It is extremely scary. I don't believe that that was the reason people voted him in at all, but that's what they're saying. They're
But hold on a
saying,
second. Alexa, pause. Did I turn my fucking I just turned my Alexa on. Give me 1 second, dude.
yeah.
What the fuck is this? Hold on. Alexa. Well, that was odd.
Yeah,
He didn't want
man.
you Alexa didn't want you to finish whatever you were about to say. What were you
Exactly.
saying? I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. Please continue.
I don't think people were voting because of the economy. I think they're using that as an excuse. I think people that voted for Trump, by and large, are afraid. It's basically what Public Enemy said. They fear the black planet that's coming along, and it's the dynamics of different cultures are coming onto America, and they don't like it. and they think Trump is a protector of that, and that's what I think. So um, that's why I
Yeah,
believe people voted.
dude, you know, the like a few years ago when it was like toxic masculinity and like straight white men are the enemy, and it's just, it's all of these, like, these guys, he just fueled that, being like, we're the enemy, well, we will show you, and it just kind
Yeah,
of got all these guys like riled up, and it's crazy to me to see how many people that I know that
me too.
are that it's like that became, supporters of his.
Yeah,
um yeah, man, it's just it's like you think that we're like making steps towards, and I'm not even talking about like being, like the far left shit, just like even inching towards like, oh no, this is, we're a better society, gay people can get married, get, this is fine, this is that. It's just, it feels like we're taking such huge step back.
I agree.
um
I agree.
yeah, man.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary time.
Yeah, dude. Here, let's wrap this up. Dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Man, it's my pleasure, dude. It
I
was good
let's
talking to you.
dude, we ask all of our guests these questions. Wait, hold on, Adam. Is there anything that we missed about the record that we definitely got to go on?
No, I think you guys covered it. You did a nice balance of Speech's career and also for the today's album. I think we're good.
Did we didn't miss any? Is there any like really crazy facts about this? I feel like there must have been, considering. Let me see. Let me just take a look. 1 second. Hold on. He got inducted. They got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Which I just watched the speech. It was really cool. Like, it was like the rest of the band, and then right at the end, Sly comes out and
Oh
just says,
wow.
like, yeah, it's real quick. It's I don't know. Is it drugs that completely just, because he was doing drugs before this. I think I saw something that even for the albums before this, he used to carry a suitcase around.
Wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I
Oh,
didn't know
dude.
that.
Hold on. You had written something. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I want to read this. So after the release of Riot, additional lineups took place, because you highlighted this, Adam. Later that year, the tension between Sly Stone and Larry Graham, who's in the band, reached its peak. A post-concert brawl broke out between Graham and Sly's entourages. Oh, because yeah, dude, this, I'm leaving out so much, but basically, like, he had like these like bodyguards that were kind of gangsters that worked with them. Bubba Banks and Eddie Chin, having heard that Larry had hired a hitman to kill Sly. Yeah, dude, this is like, it's this. I'm there's so much to talk about with, as far as how crazy this guy's career and his life is, and it's just, it sucks because, he's made so much incredible music that has influenced so many people. Like, you would hope that at the end of this guy's life, like, he could just really just, you know be paid for it and
Yeah.
just enjoy it. And it just feels like it's, there's so much, just that, I guess to be that kind of a genius and be ahead of your time, it's gotta be, up there. It's definitely gotta be like, be hard, you know?
Yeah, it's horrible, dude. I didn't know about any of that stuff. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
Wow.
crazy. But here, let's wrap this up. Let's get asked this questions we ask all of our guests. What's your favorite song on this record?
Um, I think for me, that's a great question. What's the first joint we were just talking about a second ago?
Que Sera
Um,
Sera?
no, the first joint on the record.
Uh, the first song we talked about was "Let Me Have It All."
Dang,
It
what's that
opens
song?
with "In Time," "If You Want Me to Stay."
Well, I mean, first of all,
Yeah,
I would say if you want me to stay, because
so good.
first of all, we covered that record, and to me, the mixture of lo-fi, um, you know, sort of drum machine esque vibe
Hmm.
with this real funky, like very sultry energy. I think that that's my favorite record that I would say. Yeah.
I gotta go with "Que Sera Sera." It's just, I know it's like, it's not the most Sly and the Family Stone song on the record, but it is just something that for years it has just stuck with me and something that I love. Is there anything on this record that you skip over?
Not me personally, no.
No. All right. Can you fuck to this record?
No, not me.
You don't think so?
No, I can't. For me personally, I gotta
Yeah.
have stuff with no snares, no kicks, and no lyrics,
What
or
are you
else I
fucking to
get
classical music? What are you?
new age, spa music, stuff like that. I can't.
I love it.
Exactly. I get distracted. I'm like, what did he just say? What's going on?
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. We've had a couple artists have said that. It's like if there's too much,
Yeah.
even though it might have the vibe of something to make love do, it's still just you're thinking about, oh my God,
I'm
like
thinking
these
about the
guys,
arrangement. I'm thinking about the words he's
exactly.
just said. I'm like, I'm
Exactly. Yeah.
everywhere, but with the, yeah, no, I can't do it.
Exactly. What would be your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record?
For me personally, Sly is literally the most revolutionary, or one of the most revolutionary artists that burst onto the scene. And, to me, it's similar to Biggie, where not a lot of albums, not a lot of material, but the material that he put out
Mhm.
is like so revolutionarily different and special that you got to listen to it. Yeah.
Completely. It's to anybody that might not have ever thought they've heard Sly and the Family Stone. Maybe you haven't heard one of his songs, but you have heard what he has influenced.
Without a doubt.
And yeah, and it's like I don't think as far as funk, artists out there, it's like he is. There's a reason there's 4 of his albums on here. There's
That's
a
right.
reason.
That's
He
right.
is that important to music. Speech, thank you, dude, so much for coming on, man. And I
Yeah,
appreciate
man,
it,
it's my pleasure.
especially today. Like
Yeah,
we
exactly.
I think we did a good job only talking about it for the last couple minutes. So
Yeah, it's
dude,
true. It's
I
true.
can't thank you enough, brother. Please. This is great.
Thank y'all, man. Appreciate it. Salute.